What is up, YouTube? I have not done a video with the Project Sunrader in too long, so I was kind of due as far as an update what I've done to it. Cosmetically, I've really done nothing. We've been on 3 big trips. We did New Mexico, we did some Wyoming trips, and it's been absolutely flawless. But overall, I'm very happy with it. However, there was some aspects that I wanted to change and I was quite curious about. And as the title says in this video, performance mods you could do for your 22R/RE. So you're probably wondering what the difference is if you're not familiar with these engines. This was a common engine in this chassis. In fact, they used the 22R and the RE. One's carbureted, one's fuel injected, hence the RE. Another model that they used was the 3VZE, which is the 3-liter V6. It was a great engine. Everybody dogs on them. I had it in my 94 Warrior, and it was a fantastic engine. Very reliable, a lot more reliable than everybody made it out to be. So maybe I just got a good one, or whatnot. So I went from a V6 down to a 4-cylinder. People would think that's kind of counterintuitive, but this motor is very well known in the automotive world for its reliability and the power that it made for the size of the engine. Now you look at the size of this RV, it's literally a 21-foot RV, and it is powered by a 4-cylinder. That seems ridiculous. And one would ask, does it even do highway speeds, or can it even achieve highway speeds? To my surprise, when I first bought this, it did. It did 65 miles an hour all day long. Now, going up hills, that would change, and depending on the angle of the hill, it would change drastically. But I'm at high altitude. I'm at 6,000 feet, and a lot of the passes that we do are at 10,000 feet. Speed drops down to like 45, 40 on those high of altitude passes, but that's what you would expect. This motor itself has impressed me beyond belief as far as its capabilities. Now, another factor that helps with this is that this is a manual transmission. Toyotas are known to have great transmissions, and their automatics are bulletproof, but they suck a lot of horsepower. Having a manual transmission made a big difference comparative to my 3VZ automatic, and I eventually did a 3.4 swap in that. Still, the automatic sucked a lot of horsepower. So if you have a manual option or can do a manual transmission swap option, this was a factory manual, I would definitely vouch for that, because there's a night and day difference as far as the power that gets delivered to the rear wheels. But one would ask, well, what performance mods could I do to a 22R and an RE? And there's actually a lot of mods out there, but there's also a lot of sales pitches that are like, do this and you'll get tons of horsepower. You do it and you don't notice anything. However, there's one company that does stand by their word, and they've been around for the last 30 years, 40 years, doing performance mods specifically for this engine, and it's LCE Performance. And surprisingly, I ran into them by accident when I was down in Havasu getting some Toyota parts. And incredible company, they're ridiculously helpful, they always put the customer first. But they have a series catalog dedicated just to this engine, the 22R. And so I was rather intrigued by it because, well, this, as much as it impresses me, still lacks in performance comparative, like if you had an Econoline camper van. That'll do 70, 80 miles an hour all day long. I just want to attain 70 and stay at 70 and still get decent gas mileage and maybe get up to 70 miles an hour. That doesn't take all year long. And this did great, but it still lacked a little bit. And it didn't help that I added off-road tires and a lift kit. So LCE offers certain mods that they recommend for the 22R. And I did tons of research on this, and I found that there are 4 things that really awaken a 22R. And this is my opinion, the best mods that you can do for a 22R. So if you have a camper and you're like, this thing is so slow, I'm not saying that these mods are gonna make a world of difference. You're gonna be like, oh my God, it's a race car now, because it's not. But for me, after doing these mods, it was considerably noticeable. And I'll show you what these mods are, and I'll give you an idea of what it looks like in my engine bay. It's not very clean, but you'll get an idea what they are. So the biggest thing with these engines is airflow. Now I'm gonna show you something really quick. This right here is the original header system for this engine. Cast iron, it's heavy, and The biggest drawback with this setup is that it does not allow substantial flow from the heads to the exhaust. This is one of the biggest debilitating factors in the 22R. Now LCE made a mod for this. They ditched the cast iron headers and they did their free-flowing street headers. Now I was skeptical about this because you always hear about, oh, did headers, huge difference, you wouldn't believe it. And they're like $1,000 sort of thing. And for me, I did my due diligence. I read online, watched YouTube videos, tutorials, and people that have done it, not just for the campers, but all the hundreds of thousands of trucks that are out there, the off-road community, everything. They love these engines because A, they're ridiculously bulletproof, they're easy to work on, and they're cheap to maintain. And that's why I wanted one of these so bad. So that header system, which is a paperweight now, that is the original header system for this, sucks. It sucks. For the 22R and the 22RE, give me 1 second, I'm gonna open my, I remember how to do this. It sucks. So I did some mods to this. And the first thing that I did, excuse me, I'm gonna use my headers up. Oh, hold on 1 second here. Is headers. They offer a street header system, which is this beautiful setup right here. And that right there, LCE guarantees this. They have dyno results. They literally have thousands of customers that have left reviews, but nothing but good reviews. That mod right there gave me nearly 20% increase in bottom end and upper end. That was one of the best mods I did for this. And I compared it. We have a big hill up here that its angle, its grade, percentage grade is substantial. And this would, up that hill would do like 40, 35. It was struggling. I'd be floored, downshifting, you know. I could pretty much only do 35. Now, keep in mind, I did a couple other mods, but did a comparison. And I nearly got 10 to 11 more miles an hour going up this hill and not working the motor nearly as hard. So by doing these mods, I literally proved to myself that it made a difference in the performance of the vehicle. Same temperature, everything. Same weight, same fuel. It made a difference. So, obviously, headers are huge. I would definitely recommend their Performance Street Shorty headers. And it bolted right up. It fit mine perfectly. Now you see all these fancy blue wires and whatnot. You know, I think a lot of people, they'll complain about these engines, this doesn't make enough power, because honestly, you haven't given it a proper tune-up. The carburetor, the original factory ASIN carburetor, some people hate them, some people love them. Mine still works good, so I'm not changing it yet. But a lot of people do the Weber upgrade. The only downfall with the Webers is it does not adjust for altitude. It means that you have to change out the jets for that. Now, if you're just staying stationary where you're at with your camper or your mod, well then that's perfect setup, because the Weber is a huge horsepower difference for these. But I go from sea level to 10,000 feet all the time, so I need something that can adjust. Inevitably, I'll eventually do a 22RE, a fuel injection swap on this. That'll be my next big mod once this carburetor starts giving me issues, which I only have 70,000 miles on this, so it could be another 100,000 miles. It's been a great carb, and I don't feel like changing it. Works great. So headers are a big thing to do. Obviously, having an engine that runs and is tuned up, that's the next biggest thing to do. And what I mean by that is spark plugs, air filter. Make sure that you have no vacuum leaks. Now, these motors are getting worked pretty hard pulling this big of a chassis, and I personally did not like the temperature that my 22R was at. This was the middle of the temperature gauge, this was overheating, this was cold. It was kind of like up here. This is overheating. So I didn't like where it is, so I put in a factory 170 degree thermostat, a better water pump, and that made all the difference. It's a happy engine, best performance that I've gotten out of it so far. Now, air filter, some people do cold air intakes. I think the factory air cleaner is just as good. It's hot air. Unless you have this amazing cold induction system that's bringing cold air, the air is going to get heated up. So just have a really good air filter in it, and that is perfectly fine in my books. Cooler temperature, I think, is a big issue. Now I'm going to turn off the car really quick because I'm going to show you another mod that I did. Oh yes, very talkative little camper. Another mod that I did, and I'll show you to keep it cool, is, I don't know if you can see it, that's not your factory fan clutch. In fact, I got rid of the fan clutch. It's not needed. They usually work great. Factory Toyota parts work great, and I'm not dissing on the original fan clutch, but they have a super cooler, and it's a I forget the name of it. I will post it in the link below in the comments or in the description box what fan mod it is, but it's a fan clutch delete that they make for this, and it made a huge difference on the cooling ability. I was originally thinking I had a bad radiator because just of where the temperature was at on a hot summer day. By doing this mod, the thermostat, fresh water pump, and flushing my cooling system, this sits below. So keeping these engines cool prolongs the longevity of these and is the most important thing that you can do for these campers. You hear about people blowing these up, and I'm like, how did you blow this up? You either ran it way too hot or you ran it out of oil. And it's pretty hard to do unless you just do absolutely no maintenance to these, because these are absolute bulletproof engines. One of the best engines on the market in comparison to the Mercedes OM 617 turbo diesel engines, which I have one of those too. 400,000 miles, and I will drive it across the country tomorrow without even batting an eye. These engines are the same dynamic. They're incredible. To think that this little 4-cylinder, 2.4 liter 4-cylinder will pull this entire camper down the highway at 70 miles an hour with nil effort. That's impressive to me. The final mod for the upper end of this engine that I would recommend is LCE has a camshaft. Now, a camshaft is driven by a timing chain, which the 22Rs and the Es have a weakness, timing chain tensioner, and you hear about that. Definitely check yours and update it, because that's the only truly fail point on these engines. But the camshaft itself, the factory cam, torque curve is weird. Some people like it, some people don't. They have a Pro Torque cam by LCE Performance that they recommend for the camper. It's called an RV cam. I did that mod in conjunction with everything else, and night and day performance as far as mid-range, bottom end, and overall just highway speed. I didn't have to be bouncing through the gears. I could stay in fourth and sit at 65, 70 all day long. All that being said, that put me back about, headers were $600, cam was like $290. I did the rocker upgraded, so about $900 in. And then I did a couple other mods like new distributor cap, wires, new plugs, gaskets, just to help the engine out. Overall, I was $1,000 in, and it was worth every single penny, because I could do highway speeds. I was still getting 16, 17 miles per gallon, and the motor overall operating temp was reduced significantly. So those mods I would definitely recommend for this by all means. Now, you're still wanting to get more performance. Well, this is a factory 4-speed. They have a 5-speed upgrade. And with that, if you have an automatic and you want to change it, better performance, in my recommendation, I would start with the rear end. And what I mean by rear end is the factory gear ratio on almost 90% of these campers is a 410, which is great when it was a truck, but not great when you added 4 more or 3,000 pounds more of weight. The factory rear end, if you do a 456 or a 488 rear end ratio, especially on an automatic, will completely change how the RV performs in acceleration and top speed, and your gas mileage will be rarely affected. I drove one with the 456 upgrade, and I was blown away. It felt like I did a 3.4 swap, and it maybe set him back $300. Have a professional shop do it, or unless you are competent mechanically enough, because you got to have the spacing and the clearances just right on a rear and pinion. But a 456 or a 488 rear and pinion gear on the rear will completely change how these drive. And there's tons of write-ups and reviews on people doing this mod, and it's a very popular mod in the off-road community, especially when they add much larger tires, and it kills the performance. So definitely consider that. Overall, on these mods, I am very happy with this camper, and it has prevented me from doing a swap. Originally I was going to do a 3RZ swap, which is a fuel injected engine and whatnot. But I wanted to give this motor a chance because it already impressed me. It got me all the way home from our destination when I first bought it without any hiccups. And then I kind of felt bad ripping it out. So that's why I did all these mods. And every mod that I've done, I've been very happy with. And it's all been due to LCE Performance. Their prices are great, and this isn't a paid sponsorship or any of that. This is me just giving it an honest review. And their customer service, because they were so good about it, I felt like doing a review video on that. So that should give you a rough idea of what to expect and what to do for your 22R. And if you have any questions, by all means, post up in the comments box. And if you have any recommendations on your part that you've done for your 22R, I'm really curious about it because I love hearing a multitude of different reviews on things that you've done. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna do more review videos of like things we're doing to the interior. I'll be releasing a pretty cool interior pic. I'll do a video of the interior that we're doing. The next mod I'm gonna do, and I'll post a video of that, is I did a solar panel upgrade, but I only did one, and I wasn't very happy with the results. And I'll explain that in the video why. But we're gonna upgrade it with 200 watts panels and a better inverter, but I'm getting in the weeds with that. I'm gonna do a different video. So thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button, and well, do some mods to your 22R because it's truly the best engine Toyota ever made, in my opinion. Thanks, guys.